Welcome to Taiwan Tech Dispatch. This is a podcast where we explore Taiwan's technology ecosystem, its startups, its economic shifts, and how all of that connects to global innovation and geopolitics. I'm your host, White Shoe. Today's story starts with a familiar industry, ride-hailing. For more than a decade, ride-hailing platforms across Asia have followed a very predictable playbook: subsidies, discounts, and massive cash burn. From China to Southeast Asia, billions of dollars were spent to attract passengers and drivers. But over time, many platforms discovered something uncomfortable. Subsidies can win market share, but they rarely create sustainable businesses. Now, a European ride-hailing unicorn is trying something different. In September 2025, Bolt officially entered Taiwan. And instead of joining the subsidy wars, Bolt is testing a different idea: a model focused on structural economics, driver incentives, and long-term sustainability. But the story becomes even more interesting when we ask a simple question. Why Taiwan? Why not Japan? Why not South Korea? Let's explore. Chapter 1: Escaping the ride-hailing subsidy trap. To understand Bolt's strategy, we need to look at the history of ride-hailing platforms in Asia. For more than a decade, the industry has been shaped by what many analysts call the subsidy war. Platforms compete by offering cheaper rides to passengers and higher incentives to drivers. The result is rapid growth, but also enormous financial losses. In China, companies like Didi spent billions before the market eventually consolidated. In Southeast Asia, companies like Grab followed a similar trajectory. The logic behind this strategy was simple: win market share first, figure out profitability later. Bolt, however, seems to be taking a different approach. Instead of relying on subsidies, Bolt is focusing on structural economics. For example, Bolt charges around 10% commission for traditional yellow taxis. For multi-service cabs, the commission is about 20%. That's significantly lower than the 25% industry ceiling used by many competitors. Importantly, this is not a temporary promotion. It's built directly into the platform's business model. Bolt also removes passenger platform fees, which many ride-hailing services add on top of fares. And it shortens the waiting time before drivers can cancel a ride from 5 minutes to 3. That small change helps drivers avoid parking fines and wasted time. Taken together, these changes reveal a different philosophy. Bolt treats drivers as the platform's primary customers. Passengers are the driver's customers. If drivers trust the platform, the ecosystem becomes more stable. And stability, in the long run, may be far more valuable than aggressive subsidies. Chapter 2: Why Bolt chose Taiwan. Now let's return to the bigger question. Why did Bolt start this experiment in Taiwan? Taiwan is not the largest ride-hailing market in East Asia. Japan and South Korea are both larger. China, of course, is massive. But Bolt's decision suggests that market size is not always the most important factor. Instead, Taiwan offers something many companies value even more: stability. Over the past decade, Taiwan experienced its own conflicts between ride-hailing platforms, regulators, and taxi associations. Uber's early expansion triggered intense debates and policy battles. But after years of adjustments, Taiwan now has a relatively clear and predictable regulatory framework. The rules may be strict, but they are transparent. For global companies, regulatory clarity reduces risk. The second advantage is digital readiness. Taiwan is one of the most digitally integrated consumer markets in Asia. Credit cards are widely used. Mobile wallets are everywhere. QR payments and stored value cards are common. That means ride-hailing companies do not need to educate the market about digital payments. The infrastructure is already there. And there is a third factor: consumer openness. Taiwanese users tend to adopt new digital services quickly. We saw this with Uber, we saw it with Foodpanda, and we saw it with Airbnb. New platforms can gain traction quickly because users are curious and willing to experiment. For companies like Bolt, this combination creates an ideal environment. Taiwan becomes a sandbox for East Asia, a place where new business models can be tested before expanding into larger markets. Chapter 3: What this means for global startups. Bolt's entry into Taiwan also carries a broader message. For many startups and investors looking at East Asia, the instinct is often to target the largest market first. But large markets often come with large risks. China has complex regulatory environments. Japan has slower adoption cycles. South Korea can be difficult for foreign entrants. Taiwan, in contrast, offers a different combination: a technologically advanced society, clear regulations, and consumers who are open to trying new services. For global startups, Taiwan can function as a low-risk entry point into East Asia, a place to refine products, test pricing strategies, and understand the regional user behavior. In that sense, Bolt's Taiwan launch is not just about transportation, it's about strategy. Conclusion: Bolt's arrival in Taiwan is not simply another platform entering a crowded market. It represents a different approach to building platform businesses, one that prioritizes structural sustainability over subsidy wars. Whether Bolt ultimately succeeds or fails remains to be seen. But the experiment itself is important because it highlights something that many global companies are beginning to realize. Taiwan may not be the largest market in East Asia, but it might be one of the most strategic first stops for entrepreneurs, for investors, and for companies exploring the region. Outro. If you enjoyed this episode of Taiwan Tech Dispatch, please consider following the podcast on Spotify or YouTube so you don't miss future episodes. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search for White Shoe. I regularly share analysis on Taiwan's technology ecosystem, startups, and global industry trends. And if you'd like to read the original article behind today's episode, you can find it on my blog at whiteshoe.blog. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode of Taiwan Tech Dispatch.